stop screen sharing. Okay, how's everyone feeling? It's hard to get a sense of you, but I feel you. Okay, I see your thumbs up. All right, awesome. Thank you so much. Okay, cool. Hi, everyone. Oh, so many people came in while I was talking. Hey, hey, hey. Okay, it's good to see you all. Okay, so I am going to go ahead and introduce our first reader for the evening, as long as Zeph is here. Zeph, you're here, right?
I'm here.
Okay, awesome. Cool, thanks. Okay, so I will read Zeph's bio. So Zefyr Lisowski, a Southern trans poet and the author of the short poetry collection Blood Box from Black Lawrence Press, published in 2019. Has received support from Tin House, Summer, Writers Workshop, Sundress Academy for the Arts, Blue Mountain Center, and elsewhere. Her work has appeared in Muzzle, Diagram, Literary Hub, Nat Brew, and more. Zeph is the recipient of a 2020 Center for the Humanities Incubator Grant for Wolf Inventory, a collaborative film about ghost stories and sexual violence, and lives in Brooklyn. And Zeph, in addition to being an incredible human being, an incredible person to collaborate with, is also a phenomenal writer. And anyone who hasn't already picked up a copy of Blood Box, it's just this enchanting, haunted, delicious collection of poems that I would recommend to all readers. So let's give it up for Zeph.
Thank you. I'm going to share my screen so y'all can see what I'm working on. Also, I'm wearing acrylic, so if you hear like a little ticking sound as I scroll up, that's what that is. I hope it's not too distracting. Let's see. All right, can everyone see my shared screen? Can everyone hear me? I'm taking that as a yes. So I'm going to read 3 or 4 poems. Oh yes, people said yes, incredible. I'm going to read 3 or 4 poems, time sustaining, and they're going to go in order from newest to least new. I somehow was able to write something a few weeks ago, so this is the first thing I'm doing. Against forgiveness. Was not a monster. His hands were soft, was not an abnormality, was not just being a boy, had no reputation, had no warning signs, was not going through a personal journey, kept going for how long, and nobody said anything, was a brunette with soft hands, had soft hands. That's the thing about it, his hands were soft. He'd stare and stare, touch and touch with the soft hands. He'd visit me in my room, which is not an act of mercy, which is not an act of submission. He had no warning signs, but his hands were soft, and he'd ride his bike over to me. His eyes were soft, and he'd show up glistening with sweat at the door. I'd say, I'm sorry. I'd say, come back. I'd say, you've changed, and of course I believed it every single time. It happened every single time he would undo me, and still I said nothing. I did nothing. He had no past histories of misconduct, and I had nothing. There is nothing out of the ordinary in any of this, but let it undo itself all over again. End it. I don't even know how many more people he did it to, but again, let the me able to be merciful burn with the rest of it all. Burn everything, especially my own involvement, not knowing where he was, taking his hand, taking his head in my hands, anticipating our following visit, preparing to forgive again and again and again until nothing remained. I'm going to read this. Thank you. I'm going to read this next poem now. I wrote this about a year and a half ago. It was about what I thought was going to be the most immediately pressing crisis facing us, which would be a climatological disaster. And then all of this happened. So I think it's still kind of in simpatico in some ways. I hope everyone's doing okay. Things are fucked, you know. Girl work. After the schoolyard incident, meanings blur. Average temperatures rising worldwide. My body luscious. Like, who wouldn't consume me? Like, hi, my gender is scrumptious. My pronouns are Eden/A. I love the way my hair looks in this light. Apocalyptic, you know? What's the opposite of being ruined? The oceans have grown 3 inches in our lifetimes. Like, wow. I cover my hands with salt. The news anchor says my body is a seaside. I can deny others blame for anything. After it happens, I sit on the breakers. This is what I'm trying to tell you. My disassociation becomes statistical. Yes, things are getting worse. Yes, the subway flooding with people. Yes, drought. Yes, crying scientists. When I lost my dad, I thought, wow, why am I not crying more? This is a common narrative I learned. Things are consumed every day. I fling my body into the water, the anchor moving on to another story. I don't talk about loss much. The water is still rising. Before I transition to these last two poems, thanks y'all. I just want to say, I don't know, Apogee's like I think community can often be like misused, right? Every time you like include someone, there's also someone that's being excluded in ways that are often necessary, but also often around lines of, privilege or whatever. But saying that, I think Apogee is like the closest thing to a community I've had in my life. It's been both the work that we publish and my coworkers here, and just the larger network that it's formed has been so impactful to my own life, ethically, poetically, aesthetically, all of those things. I'm so grateful for all of y'all. And if you haven't been subscribing or reading the journal, welcome, and I hope you consider hopping on. These last two poems are going to be from Blood Box, which is my book that came out in the fall. It's about Lizzie Borden, who was a rich, white lesbian who lived in Massachusetts at the turn of the 20th century. And she killed her father and stepmother with an axe in the middle of the day and then was acquitted, right? So it's kind of cute what she did. If that's how you're oriented around fathers and stepmoms, not everyone is. I sometimes am. But I wrote a whole book, and one of these poems, the first poem I'm going to be reading is from her sister's perspective. And the second poem I'm going to be reading is from her perspective. And that's how I'm going to close things out. Thanks, y'all, again. I'm so excited to be sharing space. There's been a death. Of course, no one knows what to do. August 10th, 1892. My brow is thick, my hands heavy. I redraw my face every day in this tumescent heat, hoping for an almost showy sadness. I am nothing compared to my sister. Journalists say remorseless to describe her bruised visage, as if painting only exists to create new emotions, as if kindness were an aesthetic choice. If there was anything Mrs. Borden knew, it was that, the way she buried those garden pears inside her pies, face powdered into blankness. How can any of us compete with her secrets? I tell Lizzie, of course she knew what we said of her. She knew everything. How molasses covers up the festering sweet of rot. Makeup, lockbox, little hole in the ground. Grief is made by its performance. Am I bereaved? Look at me. I wear my suffering on my skin. I wear my skin on top of my other skin. And then this is the last poem. And then I'll introduce the next reader, if I didn't. Not guilty holds meanings in its skin too, and I am deeply acquainted with all of them. A series of cells dancing between my eyes, fingers corpsing on the table, the investigator peeling wallpaper from the parlor. I'm used to others' sighs, their pauses. I'm used to silence. Am I haunted? I'm haunted. Even in the courtroom, as they mouth the acquittal, I start dreaming of another life. Surely I can find happiness. I know this because I ignore my dreams and eat food regularly. I know this because I've read stories, miraculous instances of angelic visitations, shipwrecks that reverse themselves, a fire that suddenly stops burning. Do you see it? Kindness flocking like birds. I'm talking about a forgiveness so close to touching you, you can taste it. There it is, the yard over. There it is, climbing the fence. There it is, raising thin hand to rap delicately at the parlor door. Answer it. Thank you, y'all. Damn it. I am so excited for the rest of this reading.
That was good.
Thank you. So I'm really excited now to introduce our next reader. Y'all can keep complimenting me in the chat if you want to. I'll just move on. But Arriel Vinson is a Tin House Winter Workshop alumna in Hoosier. I've never known how to pronounce that. I'm just going to say Hoosier. I'm from the South. I moved to New York. I know way too little about the Midwest.
That's right.
It's Hoosier? It's Hoosier? Okay, I got it. Yes. Thank you. Hoosier who writes about being young, Black, and in search of freedom. She earned her MFA in fiction from Sarah Lawrence College and received a BA in journalism from Indiana University. Her poetry, fiction, and essays have appeared or are forthcoming in Catapult, Shondaland. Sorry, someone started calling me in the middle of reading that bio. Catapult, Shondaland, Booth, Cosmonauts, Avenue, Waxwing, Lunch Ticket, Electric Literature, and others. What a CV. She is a 2019 Kimbilio Fellow. And the thing that really strikes me about Arriel is just the encompassingness of her work and the generosity there, how she's able to switch kind of effortlessly between fiction and poetry, and does so well in both of those genres, but also the number of different hats that she wears at Apogee, whether that's editing, pulling together issues, or just helping with all of the behind the scenes logistics and registration for last year's Writing Resistance workshops. So much of what she does, there's so much sort of generosity in everything that she does, and rigor as well. And both of those have been such delights to see in her creative and in her editorial work. Please join me in welcoming her.
Jeff!
Woo! Yes! Yay!
Okay. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Perfect. Seth, thank you so much for that. Listen, I was supposed to not cry until after sharing the poems. So thank you so much. I'm so happy to just be here with Apogee fam today. We've never done this, so it's really exciting to have a reading with folks that I've worked with for years at this point. So please, if you're not a subscriber already, become one. Check out our work. We really, I love Apogee, which is why I work for Apogee. So definitely check us out, help us fundraise, and I'm going to start my poems. Since I'm sharing the screen, this looks a lot cleaner than it usually would had I had some pieces of paper to just read from. So these poems today are mostly about my divorce. So I'm 24 and I got divorced last year. And so most of these are written in that process. And it's been about a year since, that process started. And this first one is an older one before any of that happened, but I thought it fit. Home. You made a home out of me, snuggled into my body's crevices, expected me to be shelter, the clothes that clung to you like magnets, the water you sipped on for quenching to dry out the river in me. I didn't know how to say no, make myself less of a castle and more of a cave, cloaked in darkness, too sturdy to tumble, to seep into you. You made a home, is where the heart is me for you. Where is mine? Somehow signed my bones away, never gave you permission to take. I take back 3 words, with my hands cup them, shove them in my mouth like a meal, let regret awaken my taste buds, feel them struggle down my throat, rumble in my belly like drums, occupy. I tell them stay, never leave again. Leave me alone, the key please, give me back mine, house, please give me back my home. Okay.
Woo, woo, woo!
Snap.
Yes. Hey.
Yes, sir.
Ridiculous.
Good.
Ridiculousness. Thank you. This one is called Like an Orchid, and I got this title, actually, I get a few of my titles from tweets, and like I just saved the tweet so I can credit them later on, but someone tweeted something about having sprung from their father's belly, orchid-like, and I was like, that's a poem. They're not a writer, but that's a poem. So this one is Like an Orchid. I sprung from my father's belly, untrusting of men, had overheard broken promises drip from his tongue. If I told you I married my father, would you believe me? Rebirthed at 21, but stunted in another man's insides, trusting my roots to find the water in him. If I told you I died each black night, would you believe me? I roved through them, searching for just one fleck, just one. Even in the coolest hours, I begged myself to remember his once warmth, the way his chest cradled my head, heart thumping underneath snores. When I was told a sprout always burgeoned, even in darkness, I wanted to believe. But every single night lingered, howls swelled large as the moon. And once the sun finally arrived, I had to resist shielding my eyes from the light that had been absent for so long, which is to say, I was the sprout that never discovered water, which is to say, I was the sprout that never earned a name.
Wow. Come on, Sprout.
Girl. Come on, Sprout.
Come on,
I
Sprout.
have 2 more poems. Thank you so much. 2 more poems. And this one is called Night Terrors. When I sleep poorest, I'm reminded of him. How every 3 hours, my body was a clock, sat erect in my black bedroom, checked his location, our bank account, that my hands had stopped shaking, that I'd fallen asleep for at least 10 minutes. Most people have night terrors. I know how it trembles from sleep, jolts from slumber, and sometimes I praise my mind for its ability to forget the monster it aroused the night before. Sometimes I pray he has recovered, keeping money in his wallet instead of stacked blue and red chips, tremors vibrating through him. When I sleep poorest, the dream recurs. I'm wearing an ivory dress, much like the one now hanging in a consignment shop, foundation the wrong hue, face peeling like an orange. Every time I touch the pieces, they slip out of my hands. The whole time, I'm running through a wedding venue, dress hiked up to my knees, searching for him. No one wants to read about loving someone who sometimes becomes someone else. I know, because no one wants to remember how it splattered them on the floor, limbs sprawled and gangly, gripping at the carpet, stomach clawing from the insides. I get it. But this is a poem saying night terrors and loving a stranger are one and the same. I'm saying each time I dreamt, I was running and sweating and searching for someone different.
Oh, wow.
That's so good. Oh my God.
Wow. This next one has a trigger warning for addiction and abuse, so please take care of yourselves. This is called What's a Google Search After Finding Out Your Spouse Has a Gambling Addiction. And I know that's my mom. I just know it. Please. I Google everything, so I definitely just wanted to kind of get these Google searches down, and I've probably missed about 100, but this is it. What's a Google search after finding out your spouse has a gambling addiction? Does a gambling addiction go away? How do you play blackjack? Redacted address to Maryland Live Casino. Gambling addiction symptoms. Can I trust my gambling spouse? Do gamblers relapse? How to check my credit report. What is financial infidelity? What is financial abuse, emotional abuse, primary abuse? How to eliminate spouse's gambling debt. Is his debt my debt? Am I also abusive? How much is a blackjack table? How much is a blackjack table at Maryland Live Casino? Maryland Live Casino phone number. Why didn't my husband tell me he gambled? Backspace, 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 backspace. Why couldn't I tell my husband was gambling? How to keep someone away from casino. How to stay with a gambler. Is mutual abuse a myth? How to give a gambling husband allowance without him getting angry. Should I leave my gambling husband? Do you have a straightforward answer? Am I breaking my vows if I leave him? What does the Bible say about gambling? What does the Bible say about divorce? Free therapy, Yonkers. Does end sickness include gambling? How much is a divorce? Free divorce, Maryland. Should you go to couples therapy with a gambler? What is Gamblers Anonymous? Gamblers Anonymous, Maryland. What is Gam Anon? How can I get him to sign the papers? How to make addiction stop? How can I free myself? Thank you, everyone.
Oh my God.
Wow, that's so good.
So good.
Literally iconic. Truly iconic.
Girl.
Oh man.
Wow, 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 wow.
First
of
so
all,
good.
Thank you.
That's it. That's it. Love it.
I
Thank
just,
you.
That was so good,
So
Ariel.
next, I would like to, please, thank you so much, everyone.
I love you.
I would like to introduce Victoria Cho. Victoria Cho is a Korean American writer who was born in Virginia. Her writing has appeared in Smoke Long Quarterly, The Ecologist, Perigee, Quarter After 8, Word Riot, and Mosaic. She is a workshop leader for New York Writers Coalition and a Bona Voices alumna. She lives in New York City, where she helps manage career and college readiness programming for high school students. So I've been so lucky to work with Victoria. When I tell you Victoria is on it, I'm going off the script, but I put this here because we are trying to, make sure everyone can see what we're reading. She's always on it, no matter what. There's never a time where Victoria has not been on it. And I started working with her when I was a reader, a fiction reader, and she just was so organized and always about the work that we're doing here at Apogee. But her writing, I read some of her writing, and I love Apogee. I'm sorry, y'all. I just really love Apogee. But her writing transports you to a different place, a place that maybe you're not thinking about, maybe you're not considering, and she makes you confront the things you're ignoring, but she also makes you see her. So I would like to introduce Victoria Cho, and I would also like to figure out how to get my screen to stop sharing.
Thank you so much, Ariel. I'll share my screen and then it'll, okay, there you go.
Oh, perfect.
Oh, that was so sweet, y'all. I'm like, oh, I'm so emotional right now. All of these beautiful words, all these kind words. I just want to say I just feel so appreciated to be part of Apogee. This is such a special space for me. Like, I just wish growing up I had access to journals and I found spaces like Apogee, and I didn't. So this space holds so much meaning for me, and I really do hope that you know, with others' support, with all of our support together, that we can keep the space going. So I'm going to share my screen now. I'm going to read the opening of my novel manuscript, actually. And this is, it's called Your Back Looks Like the Sky, and it's about a woman who becomes the test patient in a wing grafting experiment. So I'm just going to read the prologue. Okay. Grandma Yu said the Yu women were destined for greatness. Shelley, you women have been through everything, she said. Cheated, abandoned, starved, raped, humiliated, and left in the mud like a dog. But don't you forget, we are strong people. No matter what we face, we persevere, and we fly. I set my sesame seed cookie on the table, enraptured with the tales. We were in her apartment in Seoul, and I sat on the floor with my knees curled towards me. Grandma sat in a rocking chair in front of the window with a blanket on her lap, though the temperature hovered near 90 degrees and the air conditioner was broken. It was my summer break between 3rd and 4th grades. Grandma had been speaking of the Yu people for the last 15 minutes, how her 4 daughters and 3 sons had scattered to the ends of the earth like seeds, raising children in London, Canada, and Japan. She spoke of how my aunt in London dated a prince and then was left for a Japanese woman. My aunt then began her PhD at Oxford in Asian Studies. Grandma said my aunt in Canada left her abusive husband and now worked in finance. My aunt in Tokyo had graduated near the top of her class and become a doctor, but entered financial ruin due to her husband's gambling. She quit her job to save his business. They all did the right thing, Grandma said. Mom never spoke this way of women in our family and warned me of Grandma's proclamations. She is old now. She speaks to more ghosts than humans. I didn't care. I wanted to believe Grandma and the incredible legacy of the Yu women. We sound special, I said, and chewed another cookie, sweeter than the ones Mom bought at H Mart. She smiled, and fine wrinkles appeared around her eyes and nose while her black bead eyes disappeared. Grandma's sharp and neat bun of steel gray hair contrasted her round, playful face and her soft limbs. She pointed to the scar on the inside of my knee. Last month, my mother and Grandma spoke about it over the phone. It was still healing then. I had gotten the scar from falling backwards on my roller skates down the porch stairs. My mother told me the full story on the flight over. The Yu woman had been cursed ever since my great-great-great-grandmother pushed a child who was trying to steal meat from her into the street. The child was hit by a tram and instantly killed. My great-grandma felt she would be cursed forever. She found a fortune teller to see if there was any way to rectify the damage, and the teller said not to worry. Her future offspring with the scar shaped like an eye would save the Yu women. That scar means everything, Grandma said. Her rocking chair with the pink cushion creaked against the floorboards. She began to rub the chair arms with her fingertips. Her fingers were shaped like mine, short, thick in the knuckles with small pink nails. Grandma, why do we need to be saved? I asked and fingered the protruding 4-inch scar, which had the texture of tree bark. She slowly sighed and looked out the window. I followed her gaze and saw lunchtime in Seoul. The city teemed with office workers, motorbikes, food vendors, and cars. Clusters of sleek, thin buildings, like handfuls of metal straws, shot up from the ground. The Han River shimmered and snaked through the city, peppered with bridges from here to the horizon. Different from the rolling hills and swaying grasses of Virginia. When I walked through Seoul, the intense smells switched, as if someone were flipping television channels. Sulfur, grilled meat, flowers, bleach. This was my second time in Korea. The buildings and streets were bizarre, and people talked and moved differently, yet everyone here looked like me. How could a place feel so familiar and strange at the same time? Grandma shook her head gently from left to right. Our family has gotten lost. We need to be saved because America has gotten to your mother's head, she said. She has lost herself in that country, lost her own country. Your aunts and uncles never forget. Grandma leaned towards me from her chair. Shelley, never forget the Korea in you. Mom's words about Grandma's stories came to me. She speaks such nonsense. Don't fall for it. I recalled how they fought about Mom's life in America. Mom insisted America was superior in everything. American houses, American schools, American televisions, American shampoo, American banks, American toilet paper. I don't trust Koreans anymore, Mom said. She believed where we lived, Charlottesville, Virginia, was for successful people. But I knew that while Grandma and I ate cookies in her apartment, Mom and Dad were shopping for Korean products Mom had spoken excitedly about on the flight. They have the best linens. Their underwear is so comfortable. And I want another set of silver chopsticks and spoons. I knew they would return with a fleet of shopping bags, plus 2 new suitcases to contain them for our return flight. I sipped from my cup of cool barley tea. In some ways, I was like my mother. I also wanted to look nice and copy the outfits I saw other people in Charlottesville wear. I also wanted to be like Grandma, strong and sharp. But I mostly wanted, as I sat on the floor, another sesame seed cookie. Grandma somehow read my mind and pointed to the cookie tray on the coffee table. I reached for one. While I chewed, she turned back to the window. I knew she spent hours looking out this window every day. Her eyes moved from left to right, scanning the horizon, and her jawline tightened. She looked like she had seen the world rise and fall, that she might see it rise and fall again, and that no matter the chaos, she would withstand it. Thank you. I'm like, okay, how do I fix this? Well, I'm gonna keep going for Arriel's bio. Thank you so much, everybody. I am so honored and thrilled and excited to introduce our next reader, Muriel Leung. Muriel is so dedicated and so hardworking and so talented, and I recommend everybody buy both of her books. So this is more about Muriel. Muriel Leung is the author of 2 poetry collections, Imagine Us, the Swarm from Nightboat Books and Bone Confetti from Noemi Press. A Pushcart Prize nominated writer, her writing can be found or is forthcoming in Gulf Coast, Drunken Boat, The Collagist, Fairy Tale Review, and others. She is the co-host of the Blood Jet Writing Hour podcast with Rochelle Cruz and M.T. Vallarta. Currently, she is a Dornsife Fellow in Creative Writing and Literature at University of Southern California. She is from Queens, New York. Everyone, please welcome Muriel.
Thank you so much for the intro. Can you everyone hear me okay? Okay, cool. Let's do it again. Thank you so much for everyone who attended. I'm only going to read 2 poems today because I mostly want to spend most of my time talking about how much I love Apogee. I have been with Apogee for many issues now, actually since 2014, I think. And it's really been just like a really amazing journey. I feel like I came into Apogee at a really sort of like fairly early in my writing career. I felt a lot of uncertainty about how to approach this sort of like big space and how to build literary community. And there's just so many ways in which Apogee has taught me so much as an editor, which has then helped me become a better writer in so many ways. And just that like everyone is just so kind, generous, and wonderfully supportive. And just so like fantastically social justice minded, so that every conversation we have is just so full of integrity. And I don't think there's any other space like it that I've encountered as consistent as we are. So I just feel so fortunate to know you all and to continue working with you all. Thank you so much. Let me see how to do this. Oops. So I wanted to share 2 poems today. This first one is from my first book, Bone Confetti from Noemi Press. I'm thinking a lot about just recently with shelter in place and all the conversations happening around the pandemic, how there's just been a lot of talk about touch recently or missing touch. And then also just thinking about the permeability and vulnerability of flesh too. So these two poems I'm reading today have to do with touch, flesh, and vulnerability, and history as well. So this one is called Touch, a Recovery Project. Touch acknowledges cavity in chest center. Touch should, in theory, be essentially good for knowing salt and gravity. Touch is akin to knowing flesh, and knowing flesh is, I know it when the follicle stings and my heart has turned away of glass. I know that touch is what bludgeons. I know what shuts itself in the mouth and threatens to rust through the gulp down. I know what sews itself to flesh in such a way that flesh no longer recognizes flesh. I know what flesh must do to preserve the sanctity of touch, so that to be touched means to be touched, and only just that. Touch to finger the splitting heart, touch to know the wreck that brews within me, touch made of red sharps, feral and bleak, touch me in the flint of a blank corridor when the world heaves into many bends. Let it funnel into fever. Thank you. Thank you. This last poem before I introduce our next reader is forthcoming in my new book in 2021 from Nightboat Books. The title is Imagine Us to Swarm. And what I'll be reading from is from the last section of the book. It's a long serial work which is entitled When I Imagine All the Possibilities of the Swarm. And in this last section, every poem begins with the conditional suppose. And it's various poems reimagining different historical and personal events, re-envisioning a different life for it, re-envisioning a different future possibility. Yeah, I'll leave it at that. When I imagine all the possibilities of the swarm. Suppose the impact was a bell, a warning instead moving through a hollow factory. The violence of men and the colonial rituals of their past were a lesson. In the pedagogy of grief, the earth was good, and in history, the stalwart chemicals of its wake still seeps in the soil. Would we not reverse that too if we could? The atomic weight of him pressed so deep into my torso that generations after would feel the soreness of ribs. Suppose my grandfather never struck my aunt because her cheek was there, and my father, in his piety to the self-same heaving, did not instead tell her to move out of the way. Because I was born witnessing, and in my queerness still desire the love of these masculine injuries, I listened too closely and was lost. The pattern undulates and recedes. Suppose I became the sound of wind chimes crashing into the ground, startling the other body there that would not move. The ghost of my future visits my past and tells her, you have to be brave. I could fortify my life this way. My allegiance to the bone, its refusal as instruction, will bully me when memory is not enough. To feel even now the soft impressions of many thumbs. They are not the violence I remember. There is nothing left to forgive.
Woo!
Thank you all so much for that. Thank you for listening. I am so excited to talk about our next reader for this evening. Before I read their bio, I just want to share that Joey De Jesus, the first time I ever met them, I was an MFA candidate in Louisiana, visiting New York for my first ever in-person Apogee meeting, and I had just started working with Apogee. If you've met Joey, then you know that Joey's unforgettable. And so I've always thought, what amazing creature am I going to meet in person? And Joe is exactly everything that I expected and more. And I remember taking the train with Alex and I believe Nina and Joey after a meeting. And as Joey departs, slips on this cloak and I swear vanishes into a puff of smoke. And Alex turns to me and goes, was Joey everything you ever expected? And I was like, I think more. I think Joey is just an amazing editor who's taught me so much. Their mentorship, their patience, their dedication and passion for Apogee, and the integrity that everything that they do in their work. And now, as they are running for New York State Assembly District 38, if you are all New York City voters and are registered to vote, please support. I really do hope that you support them in this journey, because I don't know anyone who would be the most deserving candidate for this position. Someone who's staunchly prison abolitionist, anti-ICE, and will do right by you. So without further ado, Joey DeJesus is a lifelong New Yorker. They are a poet, artist, editor, and adjunct lecturer running for New York State Assembly District 38 because state representatives should demonstrate thoughtful, ethical leadership. Joey DeJesus is the author of Hoax, Operating System 2020, Knocked, The Threshold of Madness, The Atlas Review 2019, and co-author alongside Sade Lene of Writing Voice into the Archive, Volume 1, edited by Jennifer Tamayo. Joey received the 2019-2020 Brick Art FP Project Room Commission and 2017 NIFA NISCA Fellowship in Poetry. Their poems have appeared in Poem a Day, Artist Space, Sparrow Street, Bettering American Poetry, the Brooklyn Rail, and elsewhere. They've performed in Art, Ami, Basilica Soundscape, the New Yorican, the Poetry Project, and elsewhere. Please welcome Joey DeJesus.
Oh my gosh. Yay, can you hear me? Thank you, Muriel.
Yes.
That's awesome. That was so kind. We're gonna get like, I have to do this on my phone, so if Zeph, would you there we go. There we go. So I'm not exactly sure what I'm gonna read, but yes, I just want to take this moment to say that I'm I love Apogee. Apogee has taught me, I can't even begin to explain the many ways in which I'm just so honored to be a part of Apogee's community and the things that I've learned as an editor. I've been on hiatus for the past several months as I've been running for office. But it's just wild how the experience of editing and experience among poets, how all of these experiences that I've had because of Apogee have perfectly, almost it seems, primed me for political office. There's a lot, it's not different in any way. I think that Apogee working at Apogee showed me that there's no finer venue for poetry than the People's House. And then, and that publication is about making public the word of poets. And so I'm so grateful because, like others have said this evening, Apogee, if Apogee had existed when I was a younger poet, I don't know, I probably wouldn't be as enraged. I wouldn't still be working through the rage of just erasure and repeat erasure, and because I've been writing poetry now for 15 years, so at least, so, and publishing, so it's just I'm so thankful for the community, for everyone, I love the fam is essential, and yeah, so I'm excited to read some poems. There's a link to some text. I think I'll just do it in order, maybe. Thank you, fire makeup. This is just the new look, permanent cry emoji. Because I'm suffering from the corona. I like recovering, but it's a journey. It's a journey. Left lung, left side, not so hot. Okay. So these are like newer poems, and I'm gonna read from Knocked, and I don't know what's gonna happen. I'm just gonna go. Oh, thank you. I see these little notes. I'm like, thanks. I appreciate them. It's so interesting, like this way of performing. Okay. This is just a poem, Materia of Power. Don a tasseled robe, shoulder exposed to the thurible road, press ink interlude settlement, unspooling wisps in their principal labor, adept in device and element, the coins of several nations stack atop the head of a green mule painted for protection. Caduceus by choice, by chalice of bubbly, money holding the moon's madness, arrive at a new faith by speaking crestfallen in rumors. What whisper to wish someone who has it all, if not a match? Draw crystals wafting the refuse spectacle, the toxin you taste is an ass in the air. It is prestigious in that it has 6 legs and the gift of flight, and its mouth is full of curses. So I'm not sure what the order is, but I'm just gonna go with the gut. And I'm gonna try and keep it short, but you know, I got the whole setup up here. And Maria, like a friend to Apogee, and a friend is actually doing a performance on the roof right now. We're like socially distant, both performing. Okay, so I'm like hearing music above me. It's wild. So this is from Knocked, my book out with the Atlas Review. And I'm just gonna read a few sections. And I think I got it in the link, but we'll see. Primal, dangerous, dark, base, you. Primal, dangerous, dark, base, you. Can you all hear that? Primal. Do I need to make it louder? Dangerous, dark, base, you. Perfect. Primal, dangerous, dark, base, you. Face, this dread, hand, dire circumstance, rife manuscript dictated by extremes. Dangerous, dark, base, you. Primal, risk of sound, dangerous, risk of sound, base, risk of sound, this dread, hand, dire circumstance, rife, save my life by extremes. Dangerous, a strange period of numbness, base. My body, a worm to me. I had nothing. Time to turn into meat. Dark, face, you. Face, this dread, hand, dire circumstance, rife manuscript dictated by extremes. Zefyr Lisowski. The night houses. Our nation will visualize the environment. Event control all altered state ecstasy. Catch falling ash, miraculous change. I ether into couplet most evenings. I shatter the expected to access the page. Smear scale script dictated by extremes. Dangerous, dark, base, you. Primal, dangerous, dark, faith. Faith, this dread and dire circumstance, rife manuscript, dictated by extremes, dangerous, dark, face, you. Primal, sweet, corrupt, Soviet, smear, scale, down, vaccine, nice, the first three hours. Try to find their heart, that I want to breathe. Soviet, now, there's one. See it, corrupt, Soviet, smear, scale, down, vaccine, nice, the first three hours. Sorry over spirit, unverified flesh and shambled dark. Unseen, let us disquiet, let the pose a state of courage. The fear of being accused, primitive, plant-based. The phantoms see you down in specters, abuse the elder entheogens and ill fate. Good God righteous, all enraged. We're taking a stance. We're a shock warning politic for those who describe no more. Nice, the first three out tonight. There's it. See it. While my cell so dark, the eons change. Rage. Imagine the good God of madness banging at hand. Self-preservation is a satellite orbiting fire. The road before you is dark. Shadow, astral shadow. A word will storm your metal arm when the state quickly comes to take your name. Okay. I think that's all I'm gonna read for tonight.
Oh my God.
Okay, I have Legacy's. I have to pull up Legacy's bio because I'm doing this all on my phone. I'm like running for office and my computer's busted, so I'm using like loan technology. Like really, like, you know, rent burdened. Oh my God. Oh shit, hey, Tommy. Okay, let me find, well, okay, I found it. Okay, I found Legacy's bio, but the thing that I want to say about Legacy, because everybody's just going off the cuff, is just how unbelievable, like how shook I'm left every time we see the materials. When the Legacy brings in the arts materials, like I'm just floored at the just the quality and the integrity, and her vision is extraordinary. I've been inspired to write. Like I've written about the artists that she's, just in my own like personal and private like sittings, that she's brought into Apogee. So we are, I mean, so blessed to have so dedicated and I think visionary and editor and thinker and curator, truly just phenomenal. A phenomenal person to work with, always supporting the fam, always just boosting. You know, it's just amazing. I'm thankful for everything that Legacy's contributed and continues to contribute. And then all the things, okay, here's to Apogee, but also to the world at large as like a curator and thinker and writer. Okay, so I mean, like, maybe I use the voice thing for Legacy's whole intro. Because why not? Because why not? Why not? Why? No. Okay, Legacy. There's a why not. Okay. Legacy Russell, a writer and curator, born and raised in New York City. She is the associate curator of exhibitions at the Studio Museum in Harlem extraordinary, but they're also very, I think, blessed to have her. Russell's ongoing academic work and research focuses on gender performance, digital self, internet idolatry, dig, 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 and new media ritual. She is the recipient of the Thoma Foundation 2019 Arts Writing Award in Digital Art and 2020 Rauschenberg Residency Fellow. Her book, Glitch Feminism, is forthcoming from Verso, which is also just amazing. And this fall, so please help me welcome the amazing Legacy Russell.
Thank you, Zoe, and thank you all. I'm going to try to do this share screen, and I will say, as I get started, that I'm going to start with an oldie and goodie that is one that kind of brings to the forefront some real frustration and rage. I've been revisiting some older works that speak to this moment, because in this moment I've found, as with many folks, that, you know, I'm going through a period where one day I'm totally paralyzed and the next day I'm totally in action, just like stunned and disturbed by everything that has been happening to, you know, all of us, our communities. So I've been trying to kind of find my way and navigate that, and writing a lot, but then as well looking backwards. And I thought this would be a unique opportunity to do some of that together. So I'll share my screen. Can you guys see that? Yeah? Okay, cool. I see some thumbs up. Okay, cool. Post-truth, New Year's song. This is the ocean that leads back to you. It bleeds salt. What is the bottom of the bottom, the inside of inside? Missing is cavernous. It wants and never wanes. It dines on you alive. Here are the things we weave but never wear. What is the base of this rage? It never ends. It eclipses. The ticker tape of replays, those things you wish to reminisce, those creatures of culture remain on autoplay. You have no choice but to watch. Fact, we have zero agency. Fact, whiteness is a super PAC. Fact, yes, as a feminist, I'll still choose Migos. Toxic masculinity lends itself to a particular brand of contempt, one that tastes strange in my mouth as it's a borrowed petal, a tangy peel not tangible. There is no belonging. It is thorny. I want some. Maybe it will help me become ascendant, that pathetic reach toward cosmic that we dream of when we find ourselves knee deep in the sunken place and the spoon keeps spinning, the worst set ever played for an audience of 7.6 billion. Here are the rules. I stay open. I keep cavities tight and candied, those things that throb and never rot. When I fuck like Kimye, it's toward an enthusiastic invisibility. Word on the street is that you can get a break as a ghost. Am I your man? Can we dissolve together? Is the rectum a grave, or I'm pretty sure it's that money shot where I can get my groove back like Stella? Maybe vapor is the real freedom, that wild thing that doesn't need biometrics, that assassin that can pass through the pulp of borders without a passport. If vapor is a type of freedom, is vaping then like a political act? Someone once described to me the act of vaping as a joke on humanity, wobbly bodies walking around giving head to alien prosthetics while real aliens watch us from Mars in their North Face jackets jacking off. Here's a hypothetical. We are all assholes. It's cold out here. Can I be your girl tonight? I asked you to keep me warm in this war, but offered you nothing in return. Since heat can only travel out, we both died. My bad. Still, we sing and suffer. You keep calling to ask me what I'm doing, but then blame it on Bub Dial. I text thefting words from little Kim, laying in the cut like a bandage, come through. You don't get it. You don't believe me. You don't accept my invitation. How is it possible your ass still knows my number by heart? How is it possible that you still use read receipts? Take a hike. It doesn't take Florence Nightingale to identify the wound here. We go all night like disco to block the blood, hoping the hurt will coagulate. Alone on this mountaintop with my hand on your mouth and fingers pinching your nose, I still can't tell if there's injury. See, this is where we can't keep going just as it used to be. No, in 5 years, when we look back on this collapse, I won't wish you were here. No, in 5 dog years, when we are done digging, I won't excavate you. No, in 5 light years, when we return to this planet, I won't expect it to still be habitable. All that wishing is heteronormative. Our therapist fucking sucks. The Anthropocene is a massacre like Jonestown. It's super angsty. The depth of trauma and how close it cuts to the bone shouldn't be the evidence we need of how loved we were. Yet we want it. That absence, as a weapon, it is a chalk outline. Here are the forensics. There's a science to Drake, I swear it. Those nights where we threw our hands up after too many glasses of wine, hotlined a pathway to headache with a reimaginary at our fingertips, just out of reach. That sexy ass solstice we spent on our Pluto, years after the real thing was demoted to a dwarf, poor thing. All the other planets laughed. How sizist. That was our postmortem. The modernity of love is an eclipse. Pretty weird to navigate, but with special stripes in high vis. To be planetary is aspirational anyway. Don't be naive. Everyone knows the canon is a canon. The romance of aesthetics is bigoted. Don't forget that beauty is the native tongue of this capitalist conspiracy. Keep your eyes on the road. You don't get to climb out of the car whenever you please. The wedding industrial complex began with chivalry, and so did the construct of romantic love. Neither were sprung for bodies like ours, both vapid in the blender of fairy tale. There's no victory within Victorianism. Don't expect she'll find forgiveness now for her swans that we ate while starved for one another, just because now Meghan Markle's on the scene. That's not socialist. There have been so many shadowy hours. Those days where the penny wish is that the bottom of the bathtub drops away and swallows me whole along with my arnica. Heartbreak is so neoliberal. So is apathy. It is saleable by Hallmark. On bad days, I literally don't care enough to die. I'm too mindful. On Instagram, sliding up into my DMs is that friend of mine who, burning, never sleeps on the world. That restless one who, in the pale, watery hours of a new year dawning, alongside an excellence of emojis, fit for Egyptian royals of an early dynastic, wonders whether Erica Garner's heart was just too full. Girl, I feel you. Hey, I feel it. Hey, postscript, there is danger in Black girl magic, that thing that parades and celebrates, that thing that suggests our trying for superhuman. Is magic allowed to hurt? Activism is not alchemy, it is a mantra. Sometimes humanity is all we have left though, but it is slippery. It excludes. There ain't nothing super about it. Here are those resolutions. They will come for you. They will never take you. Erica, we lost a daddy too. In state-sanctioned love, I promise to fail. And in this new condition, broken now to never seek safety. I'm sorry, I'm not sorry. My problem is that I've been too much of an empath. All the universe rushes through me, yet somehow I am blamed for being devoid of compassion. I don't want to live your life right. This life I live, I make it now. In these hearts, all the things are kept. In these rooms, all things must be saved. Here's the edict. The body is a burning building. We take what we can and don't look back. Don't believe what they say. We'll see to it that it fails and falters. We'll rebuild without blueprints so it fits just right, without the speculative seas of a patriarchal architect. They'll see. You'll see. We'll see. Maybe. Clarice Lispector said, all the world began with a yes. How many worlds will we make ours? Yes, yes, 1,000 times. And I'll say that, in terms of just like standing on Apogee. I have a unique experience with Apogee because I have such a privilege to work with everyone here, but as well, I feel like that the general vibe is that I often am communicating with so many folks via the internet, and I rarely get to see people face to face just because of just life being insane and busy. And I've always just been so blessed that everyone has always been so generous and willing to dialogue about our artists and to provide incredible insights about where those things intersect with the incredible writers that we feature. And it's just been really neat too to see our artists grow up through Apogee, like people who we began with, many years ago now on to, residencies and doing really cool projects and becoming writers of their own too, which I think has been really phenomenal, collaborating often with writers who also have been published in our pages. So thank you guys. It's been really wonderful. So this will be the last one. You can bear with me. Avenues. I know Anita Hill must have had her fair share of Olivia Pope nights, those evenings locked away with nothing between her and the world but a functioning peephole and a glass of Merlot. That place of peace that comes with being steps away from a clawfoot tub in an apartment that you own outright. If those tax breaks let you live right, the hiss of television suicidal, that tub teeter playing tug of war with a toothy plug gumming at a gaping socket. Gotta love that booty. Olivia Pope and Annalise Keating have that in common though. That particular brand of post-Black that means you can take a straight white male life in the name of justice and somehow it shakes out to a fair trade. It's NBD. Girl, bye. That liberty makes me jealous AF. I'm thirsty for such a high-functioning fiction. SMH, I envy a good assassination followed by a bottle of vodka to block out the audacity of this America. Isn't that just the definition of imagination? Doesn't Amerigo Vespucci sound like your designer handbag? Do you follow him on Twitter? Who knew the legacy of Pangea would be overwritten via the supremacy of autocorrect? This street view was from like centuries ago. Don't believe the route on Google Maps. Babe, when we were all connected, everything was in walking distance and those bipedal motherfuckers got their steps in all day. This is the dream. Yes, we can have it. Yes, we can do it. This utopic trajectory towing the edge of Anthropocene. Anthropocene is my fave. What can we rebrand the name of this weird instant when considering advancing eco-conditions as a mode of mass genocide? Is an industrial complex like an actual complex? Okay. Those precious moments always lie perfectly across my tongue like a good tab of acid. Why can't we just ghost on Russia? They're fugly with their nerve agents. Sigh. Life is just so newsy these days. I'm so over Facebook as a governmental body. I'm all about the one who played the lawyer on Sex and the City for governor. What's the Working Families Party? Sounds super fun. Doesn't it feel like daily there is a new tsunami? When the time comes, FEMA will be doing dinner and a movie with its boo and send us all to voicemail. Sorry, can't talk right now. At this point, I'm getting mixed up about which direction the water is coming from. But what I know for real is that we are all going under, so I better find my floaties. If you don't know what I'm talking about, this isn't for you. When we put our palms in the air and pledge to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth, we know that God will sit up straight and pay attention, woke right alongside the rest of the nation. Amerigo, too. Can't we leave the cute little Columbus wannabes alone? All they want to do is blast Quavo in their digital blackface, a proliferation of memes screaming yes. Those forefathers weren't my daddy. You steal from us every day. Don't think that I missed you pocketing that Vine effect. I'm dead, I'm not dumb. This femme business is complicated though. No, like literally it is a business, get the memo. The proof is in Post Malone's beauty channel, that YouTube vibe showing us how to flat iron our bangs. Black is beautiful, trademark. This fractal feminist futurity is super whack. Bill Cosby, once our national daddy, is going to jail, but Clarence Thomas gets to high-five Brett Kavanaugh on his way to the Supreme Court? Okay, call this meta. I wonder if Brett will dance like Theresa May in secret now that he's out of detention. Who will make that phone call to teach him how to move his virgin hips? I didn't know that virgins were incapable of violence. Thanks for the DM. So glad someone is praying with their little girls tonight. That's so new wave. But wait, did Immaculate Conception ask for consent? I'm feeling some kind of way, especially because even my own father agreed before he died that this Cosby thing might be some kind of bigger conspiracy. This is what world making looks like. That part of the patriarchy that eats itself like a bologna sandwich from Blimpie, and then Netflix and chills and ghosts on Tinder hopefuls. IDK, when O'Hara had that queer Coke, was he grateful to at least be seated? I know it was prob super yummy and maybe this is petty, but isn't it kind of problematic that my aunt had to go home to drink from her own sink? Is blackness stickier than cola? Is it sweeter? See, this is the problem with politics these days. Everyone is out for themselves. All these trees keep dying because they keep getting skin stripped for switches, those injurious tongues waiting to be activated, line items in the expense report of capitalism. Here's a meme. Those viral videos of us running, that thing that is commonplace on my Finsta feed. But when we see it in Childish Gambino's new vid, suddenly there's proof it's really real. Are Quaaludes or one beer part of the racial imaginary? Pick one. When you meme those memorable instants, are your gifts playing homage to the faith we kept while in Middle Passage, which TBH probs inspired the invention of remix itself? I have questions though. I know it isn't in vogue right now, but all this makes me want to die. The other night, I felt inspired by that drone life, so I followed a girl home off the Utica stop on the A train. I just wanted to hear her position on Jeff Flake. Girl, I see you. Can you be my witness too? For what it's worth, her boyfriend just didn't get it. Went on and on about that new Ecos Lotta show at the Whitney though. What stands between us and the world? Is it a peephole? Can I get another glass of wine to forget this feeling, please? Those flashes to nights where I had my hair pulled without permission, where I ran barefoot because the other option was to never run again. The best ragers are bipartisan, babe. I'm a bipartisan bae. What really happened in that elevator? My third eye started bleeding. Did I miss it? Was that feminism? Wait, is Jeff an ally? Ugh, can we love him? Did Flake feel similar feels to when Solange had her justice on Jay-Z? No one cheats on bae without later turning the mess of marriage into millions. It's payback at its best. Remember, all these struggles can be yours too. Who will be in bae's corner today? And can babes be bae today too? Save us. When Yoko said woman is the nigger of the world, did she think of Zora Neale, who flagged that moon first? Those sliding doors were held just in time. The eyes of all cameras blinking curiously under the sun of sudden celebrity. That tan is counter-revolutionary. Apolitical, but chic AF. I don't care if you don't think I deserve a living wage. The burning bros say we can have one, so there. I am one stumble away from having to pay full rent for air and water, and let me tell you, it isn't cleaner up here. I feel super bummed about those women who keep trying to get a seat at the table but stay hungry. This is chess. Just keep playing. You aren't here to eat. Babe, that dress is super cute, yes. Yes, it matches his Dockers, true, but wait, I don't think he gives a fuck about you though, remember that. Voter suppression isn't pussy power, put your hat away. Are you going to the rally tonight? Get me that t-shirt that says, let America be America again. I'm voting for Langston. He was right all along about you. Thank you. So I have the total pleasure of introducing Crystal. And I will say that, you know, it's been really interesting, as I said, because oftentimes I see my Apogee sistren and brethren on the internet more than I get a chance to see you guys in person. But I think that what's been wonderful is that obviously your work really lives with me quite literally on my bookshelves and in all my bookmarks that I come back to over and over again. And Crystal's one of those people. And I would say that, you know, I've been inspired by Crystal's work, if only because it is incredibly brave and generous. I feel like as a poet, the work brings together so many sharp and really incisive elements that pretty much devastate me. They're so beautiful and challenging. So I feel very lucky to be able to introduce Crystal this evening. Crystal Yeung is a queer Asian American poet with an MFA in poetry from the College of New Rochelle and was a part of the CCNY Language and Literacy MA program. Her writing can be found in Rabbit Catastrophe Review, Poets and Writers, Perigee, Tayo, and Descant. She is the recipient of Poets and Writers Amy Award and Descant Betsy Colquitt Poetry Award and serves as chairwoman for the Penn Prison Writing Program. She is currently serving her AmeriCorps year at Asian Americans for Equality. Please join me in welcoming and celebrating Crystal.
Hi, thank you. Can everyone hear me? Okay. I mean, I want to ping pong it back to Legacy, but that also left me really floored, and I'm not exactly sure how to follow up with that. And I think, like, you know, this is the first ever Apogee like reading featuring our staff members, so this has like been super illuminating, and it's like, I think it's just not only great for community building, but it's like also witnessing the sheer amount of like talent and sheer power that everyone just brings. Okay, so I'm going to read 4 poems, I believe. So at some point I'm going to do like a little switcheroo, because it's one of those moments where it's like, and I don't know how many of y'all like feel this, but it's like you have a version of a poem that, I mean, I did find, and it's under the same title, but it's not the version that you want. It's dated older. It's definitely older. It has like older edits. So I don't want that. So I just had to take a picture of the one that was the most recent that was published in a journal back in the fall. So just bear with me when I do a switcheroo. Okay. Astrophilia. Astronomy taught us our insignificance in nature. Ralph Waldo Emerson. I'm trying to be a better astronaut, to relive last year's cleared sky stratosphere, how your Sawadee Ka shakes my temple like tectonic shift. Planetary change requires atmospheric break or astral alignment. This is not a soft suggestion, rather Newtonian or Superman, to push harder against gravity, God, and light, to stop Earth's rotation, bookmark endless summers for lakes to twist and dry out into figure-8 aortas. But I'm no God, nor scientist or extraterrestrial smart, but certainly terrestrial and trying. Your gravitational shift is an absence of policy. You have broken me without buying. Einstein would say, through theory of time, I was broken already. Or how deserts were former oceans, how the pain reifies our exquisite existence, that we are revisiting ghosts of images moving too fast for our eyes. But I've read somewhere a way of repair, to gild things in gold, things made more beautiful for having been broken and reborn through lacquer and fire. But you, all that black that courts the sun, but could you tell me what air is without breathing? Could you tell me what gravity is without your feet touching the ground? I'm realizing that this might be too small for y'all, so I'm just gonna blast it. The next poem is called Dispersion of Light. In physics, different frequencies of light waves will bend varying amounts upon passage through a prism. This is a phenomenon known as dispersion of light. Your father has looked past you, at your shadow, wishing it would dig you your grave. He feeds it the sum of your parts, reels hours of video footage of a younger you before you veered off course. In this, he is the primordial prism, and you an angle of deviation, divisible, incalculable. There are photographs of you years before in a red dress with hair as black as his, black as iron and wires, with no possibilities of disaster. You move closer to the plane, one that touches the aorta of his calcified heart, and all at once it is gone, ashes. It is here as a shadow skirts the sun overhead, you learn some things that died cannot be revived with neither flood nor fire. This is the moment where I do the switcher. Oh, I'm having trouble. Okay, there we go. I know that the sort of scan makes it look ancient, but I swear it was just like published in the fall of this year. Okay. And the sort of impetus for this piece, to give you a little bit of background, is just, it's an activity that I've also done with my high school students. It's really just ekphrastic writing from a single picture. And I've always found that to be a really like interesting exercise. Like, what can you imagine, like what a picture can tell you, you know, what are the possibilities of a picture? My mother in a sea captain outfit by a lake with a girl in a dress, Taishan 1984. Then, as if torrential rain mucked all that earth to create a cruel picture of survival, you wore the uniform pulled from the closet of a neighbor boy who died with water in his mouth. River pagodas swam above his sea-level lungs, and it was you who remembered to gesture the dead, unbroken water rat that disappeared up the girl's chiffon dress, her uterus a winding field where he last sowed seed, your arms linked, elbows scraping the limestone bridge where he clawed for air, for clay to wake from the wet and pregnant darkness. But water knows only to feed on, to overwhelm, to cast a net over a belly-up portrait of village people who'd swim in shit just to be closer to water. And you, smiling or mourning, drowning happy, eating mud, sunken and settled in your upstream stomach. Oh God, I'm having trouble. Okay. This piece is called, I'm really bad at leaving because I don't know where to go. You fixed me a Sunday breakfast in brisk December. I forgot where, perhaps maybe in Ithaca, and snowed salt on a pair of yoked sons on my plate. I didn't know that you intend to break me like holy bread, but I suppose I can say thank you for this burial and not for a lack of trying, withholding from eating all of my food. I hide in the cupboard's secret panel, a private ventricle of freshly squeezed juice from all the beautiful greedy mouths that try to make a settlement to my heart. Still you plucked at the handles. We unclothed every meal and drink to count your ribs. You've always been missing one, you say, the one that stops your heart from dropping to your feet. You have taken mine to lift yourself out of reach, out of my inadequacies and questions. Every meal now is undersalted. Every restaurant is marked by that Tuesday when you gave me the bad news. But death comes in many forms, not just orgasms, but also in your lovely face from how you hide a smile behind your hand at my joke. Really, you were hiding your teeth as you chewed my hopes to digestible pieces. My feet throbs. Manhattan drips with my bloody footprints. Streets where we kissed our dog-eared at the corner, where you stole all the good left in me. And I wonder if this island is big enough for the both of us. How Odysseus journeyed to many islands, through the bed of Calypso for 7 years to find Ithaca again, for that feeling of safety and permanence and ease, for my ampersand of a heart in something like a breakfast. Thank you, thank you. I think we're nearing the end of our program, and it is with immense pleasure that I get to introduce our executive and founding editor of Apogee Journal. So I think one thing that you should know about Alex is that she is pretty much like a superwoman, in that she will don 2, 3, 4, 5 hats all at once. I think she's one of the most competent women I've ever met. And also, I've also had the pleasure of being in the audience when she had received the Nora Magid Prize. I think it was probably last year. It was probably early last year. And I can't really emphasize this enough, but I feel like she's super deserving. I don't think Apogee would be where it's at right now if it's not for Alex. So in short, not to make this too cheesy, but she is deserving. She is wonderful. She is superwoman. She is the captain of this boat, and I will die a happy mate. I guess vassal? I don't know. How do boats work? Anyway, this is Alex's bio. Alexandra Watson is a founding editor of Apogee Journal, where she has helped secure grant funding for community art projects from the New York State Council on the Arts, Lower Manhattan Cultural Council, and Brooklyn Arts Council. She is a full-time lecturer in the first-year writing program at Barnard College. Her fiction, poetry, and interviews have appeared in Yes Poetry, Naproot, Breadcrumbs, Redivider, Pank, Lit Hub, and Apogee. She's a recipient of the Penn Nora Magid Prize for the Literary Magazine Editing. And you can find her work at alexawatson.net.
Thank you so much, Crystal. Thanks everyone for the birthday wishes as well. I really wanted to do karaoke this year for my birthday. Obviously that wasn't possible, and the next idea that I had was to pull together this amazing group of staff to have an Apogee reading, and I'm just so excited to have had the chance to listen to everyone tonight. I feel like I was sent to space and back again a few times tonight, and I'm just excited to read more also of all your work. So I'm actually reading poetry tonight, and I'm gonna try to not look at the chat because I'll laugh or cry too much when I see people saying things. Let me make sure that I can share my screen with you. I should really know how to do this since I've been teaching Zoom classes for the past however many weeks it's been. Okay, here we go. And let me see if I can make it a little bigger. Okay. Is that okay for people? Doris, I see your screen. Will you give me a thumbs up if you can see? Okay, cool. All right, so I'm gonna read a few poems. This one's called Faded. I found you nearly drowned. Your silky hair draped my shoulder. It was a dusk of Dawn Q and pineapple juice. We sat on 2 towels reading, sand all in our toes, our private patch. You ran, then splashed and opened up your chest to let the tide in. My limbs run slow, my feet buried, the blue the same for miles. Then trying to remember CPR. I held your solid body. Our long nights nibble at my brain like flies on a fruit tree leaf. We'd creep up to the roof in ballet flats with camels, filters flavored like candy. I'd dredge up all our mixtapes, IMs, DVDs, Gladiator, Fight Club. You loved watching men tear men apart. Now you're the reason I have no bridesmaid, why I pick up the phone to call the air. This next one is called or People Unraced, and it was just inspired by my musing about whether in my dreams when people that I didn't know showed up, whether they had a race, and I realized that they often didn't. Here, people are unraced. Eyes don't do or undo bodies first. Even me, a little mixed one. Old ladies don't look more, ask about adoption, my hair. I have on no foundation and no one polices my brother. My mother has no color in the violence of my birth. She's just there, the vessel. She walks the ward masked, looking for clue, shadow. I'm turning back a shade. I paint the blackboard black. All night my dark brain pulses. Okay, hang on just 1 second because my family's listening to me in the other room and I can like hear the echo. So fam, if you could turn me down a little. Love you. Okay, so this one is based on, it's called Yelp Reviews for a Lost Corner, and it's about the corner on Broadway from 169th to 170th Street in Washington Heights, where my dad lives and where there were all these classic businesses. And recently Columbia bought the whole block to make hotels for the medical school and for the hospital. So all these places are gone now. So Como Pizza, 4035 Broadway, 5 stars, pizza. A hot slice, a treat, the epitome of NYC, an orange bubble of oil shimmering on the surface of cratered cheese. A premature bite scalds the roof of my mouth, worth tonguing stringy skin. Eve, R.I.P., always asked after my father, who'd come here after sweaty ball games in 70s summers. John, R.I.P., threw the pies in, and for a while they levitated between his palm and the oven door. This location has closed. Rem Restaurant, 4021 Broadway. After downtown left us heady and smelling like smoke, the A spit us up on the corner as the sky was just cracking open. Lena served us bottomless coffee and a decade of tired smiles. We had 2 eggs runny and stopped up the yolk with toast, hot, crispy, hot hash browns, golden laced and covered in ketchup. Lena told the story of the diner's name as we turned out our pockets and laid down all our change. In the 40s, when they opened, it was Remel. In the 80s, the sign's metal L fell off. Now, auction flyers dangle from clear tape on the windows. This location has closed. CB Shoe Repair, 4031 Broadway. A snap in the strap of my favorite sandal made me do what I had promised never to, walk a block barefoot like the 4 a.m. girls on the LES with bruised toes from dancing in 2 pointy heels. Turned my gaze down from hot eyes, I watched my step to protect my soft pad from needles or glass, accumulating soot, exhaust, gum, shimmer. Then the CB sign came into view, a beacon of cowhide and shoe shine. Fernando tried not to laugh, gave me dollar flip-flops to get home. This location has closed. Along with my new...
Woo!
Thanks. I have 2 more. So this one's called...
I love you, Auntie Alex. Happy birthday.
Thanks, Lovey. I love you too. So this one, it could really be read either as 2 different poems or 2 connected poems going downwards, but I'm going to read it across. So it's called My Body is the George Washington Bridge, all lit up at midnight. 434 wires unlock the land, limbs slung across a chasm, double-deck suspension, 100 million self-propelled cells hot for incandescence. Carbon hardening soft iron, a 14-lane corridor, having opened all 29 tolls, with top exposed, lower half enclosed, a stiffening truss, bursting to flame, coming unanchored. And then last one is called well, it has a few titles potentially. When the Party's Over, or Portrait of an Addict, 0 Days Sober, or my mom sent me this book called Healing the Addicted Brain, and it's after Kaveh Akbar. 17 years of crevices regularly infected. My thirst corrects the limbic, a reasonable high. With blitzed cortex, I'm literally all ears. I work backwards, miss my stop, do something stupid. I zero in on awareness. I can function. I am fundamentally optimal. I handle concepts judiciously. My boss is not the problem. Susceptible to not too distant turmoil, a yellowish inception, a court of hopeless trembling. Totally neutral is boring. I don a glamorous gender, go straight for the party, parade through the bars, attack avenues, an everyday criminal. I overdose on damage, plagued by a strange dollar, irresistible cannibal of dismal millions, a warning nags my kidney. Good news, sky, overnight serotonin, focus, the groove, a folded canyon, the road, a mind to come home to. Thanks.
Woo! Yes.
Woo! All the way. Woo! Woo! Getting over.
Okay, so maybe we could all just applaud everyone. Maybe if you feel like unmuting, you can unmute yourself and just applaud for all our readers tonight. Woo! 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 Thanks everyone for coming out tonight. Thanks to all the readers. Really just like beaming and like glowing love for everyone in Apogee and everyone who's a part of our community, which includes you all. Hang on, I can hear you, but no. So now, what we'll do for those of you who are members or who were digital subscribers and want to hang out with us a little bit afterwards, you can just leave the call and get back on at around 9:30, and we'll have a little talk back with our readers. In the meantime, please sign up to support us. I will try to get like a message out to everyone who attended, if that's possible, and send you all the links to everything that I shared with you earlier today. So there's opportunities to become a member, as well as to support us via PayPal and Venmo. So thank you all again, and thanks especially to our readers, and we'll see you pretty soon. Good night.
I can't see Uncle Ash.
He's right there.
Oh, there we go.
Hi, Navi.
Bye, Navi.
Oh my God,
Happy birthday.
Bye. Okay.
Oh.